Hello, welcome to today's webinar on the Intranet Hub. My name is Colin Thorpe, I'm a director here at AMT, and this is James Butler, who's also a director.
Hi there.
And James is going to be taking you through a demo for 20-25 minutes on the Hub. What the Hub is, it's a toolkit for building corporate intranets based on SharePoint or SharePoint Online. It was put together very much as a response to requirements that we were gathering from clients as we went out building lots of intranets for them. And we were finding that over and over again, we were being asked to produce very similar features. So what we did about 3 years ago now is we started to put these together into a suite of products that our developers could then pull in as building blocks for a corporate intranet. And what this does is it vastly reduces the amount of time that we need to build an intranet for yourselves. It means that all of the stuff that you get delivered is tried and tested, and it's built to proper best practices. And it comes as part of a whole process. So not only do we build an intranet, we give you materials to help you push it out to the organization. We deliver admin training, end user training, and take you through all the types of governance that you need to do to ensure that your intranet is a big success. And it also obviously keeps the cost down fairly significantly for you as well. So that's what the Hub is. James is now going to go on to the site and give you a demonstration of it.
I'm a firm believer that there's no one way of doing SharePoint. You do have to tailor it for businesses. So it's really important that we have consultants on site engaging with you. We've got a very process-driven delivery method. We have a sort of scoping process, and we take you through that process in quite a lot of detail. But that means that we can typically deliver a standard intranet from 6 to 8 weeks from start to finish, or finish, I should say, sort of at the point at which you can start adding content and things. And that means that there's no sort of hidden surprises that come out, and you end up with a sort of a project that gets delayed. I'll show you some screens in a minute and a little demo, but one of the key things is that SharePoint out of the box isn't mobile friendly. It's not a mobile responsive design. So we've made sure that the home page and the key landing pages of the site, key functionality is actually adaptable to mobile devices. We have a series of modules. So those of you familiar with SharePoint will know it's built on basic SharePoint lists. So like Excel lists, SharePoint document libraries, and a series of workflows. And we put all those together in the back end, so that the key thing we try and do is make sure that we're not just building on top of SharePoint and putting in bespoke applications on there for the sake of it. If there's something really good in SharePoint that works out of the box, then we either have that natively, or we have it sitting there behind the scenes with a nice view on the front of it. Going forward, we offer software assurance on the solution, and that's mandatory for the first year, but optional from then on. That gives you two things. It gives you peace of mind, particularly on SharePoint Online, that Microsoft, if they change something on SharePoint Online that breaks one of our modules or changes it in any way, we'll actually go in and fix it. It also gives you access to our roadmap. So SharePoint is currently on premises 2016. So we've got a roadmap of adding new functionality and modules onto the intranet, so that gives you access to those. There's no black boxes on here, so we don't have a sort of a wrapper that sits on top of SharePoint, with SharePoint working behind the scenes that's native to us, and you're locked into using us for the future. We made a deliberate decision to make sure that what we delivered into you and into your environment, your staff could manage. You can get another partner to work with you. You can go and add to the SharePoint functionality and things. Of course, we'd like you to come back and work with us to add new functionality in, but at the end of the first year, if you decide that you want to just take ownership of it, there's no ongoing cost for that second year. Okay, I'll switch over to a quick demo now. So this is an example of the Intranet Hub. This is a sort of out-of-the-box branding that we deliver, but I'll show you some additional branding at a later point. One of the first things to mention, like I said, is that it's mobile friendly. So you can see here, if I actually go and scroll the page in, it's actually adapting nicely for a mobile device, including the familiar on websites drop-down menus change. And that's really important because particularly on SharePoint Online, a lot of people can access the intranet on mobile devices and things, and it becomes a place to do work and things as well. In terms of the intranet, we split it up into two particular elements. One is for internal comms and marketing, and to highlight some of the modules that we've got on there that are related to that. It's things like quick links over here, it's alerts, so here's an alert bar, it's image carousels, navigation using very Windows 10, Windows 8 look and feel, and news, which is we often split into categorized news, corporate news here, so we're categorizing it with finance and corporate, and internal staff news that doesn't really need that level of detail. The other information that we often have as part of that internal comms is details of upcoming events, it's blog posts, and the whole idea really of the intranet is that we work hard with a client to make sure that the home page remains as fresh as possible, and the idea being that you can make the intranet home page the home page that your staff see when they open their web browser. And that's really good, but it also means that they don't want to see the same old stuff all the time. So we make sure there's a functionality where everything's refreshed without somebody having to go in and constantly refresh it all the time. So here you can see we've got a module that's recently modified documents, and it's surfacing documents that have been uploaded. And here we've got recently modified pages, and that's surfacing pages. And this being a modular solution, obviously what we work with in the designs with yourselves is to move the web parts over to give prominence. So if you want the recently modified documents to be the most prominent, you can move that in using standard out-of-the-box functionality in SharePoint. You can go in and edit page, and then you can move the modules around. To give you an idea of how this is set as using out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality, I've got a view here, which is my alert list, and that can be put on the home page or individual departments or in locations. And if I go into one of the particular areas, so if I go into my site contents, this is all out of the box SharePoint, and if I find my alert list, I can go in and add a new alert item. And I can choose a category. So in here we've got categories, and this is where the configuration that our consultants work with you. So you can choose a category here. So I'll choose a category of advisory, and then I save that information. And if I go back home and reload the page, what we've got in the background is different color categories. So information is blue, and that's the sort of configuration we can get involved with, choosing which categories you want. And this has been adapted for several clients. So we've got one client who've got a red alert category, and we're using one of the Microsoft Office 365 products called Flow to send out an alert message to all staff via a mobile text message, using exactly the same functionality in SharePoint, but just a simple workflow. So if anybody changes it on that red alert, it kicks off a slightly different process. So as you can see on that site contents area, everything on the powered on the front and the design we put in there is very easy to manage, which is really useful for clients who have got SharePoint already, because there's, in terms of administrating the site, there's a lot less user training that's involved, and it means obviously because it's a back end of native SharePoint, then you can adapt it and enhance it. If I go into some of the other areas on the site as well, we'll see that the other area of business that's really important is to have some user generated information. So with our news functionality, I've already highlighted that we can categorize news by departments and locations and things. So if I go into a news list, I can see a different view of all the news items. But we've also got some news articles that can be displayed with comments enabled. So here's one of my news articles, and again you'll see that's responsively designed mobile that responsively changes the shape of the page. One of the environments that Microsoft provide as part of Office 365 is Yammer. Yammer is where clients are using Yammer. We've linked the news into Yammer so that you can actually go in and comment on articles. And as you can see in here, when I go to click in here, it's automatically coming in the title of the news article, and people can have a chat on here. So you can see all those comments and things in Yammer itself, but they're filtered down to an individual page on the SharePoint page, and that means that we can then look at sort of surfacing relevant news that doesn't have to be department based, but it can be most commented on news or most rated news. And that's really important in terms of being able to keep the site fresh. Some of the other areas we highlight on the intranet are where business process comes into play, and that's business process is really useful because in the financial side of things, it's a lot easier to demonstrate return on investment where you're actually improving business efficiency. So if I highlight some of the areas that we've got involved on the solution here, you've got this nice red mandatory read module. Now in the back end, in a standard SharePoint list, somebody has basically gone on and decided that there's a new starter induction document. So it's a Word document. They've actually decided that myself as a new starter, I need to go and actually read that document and accept it. So they've basically uploaded the title of the document, a link to the document. They've given me a nice helpful instruction here saying please complete your new starter induction here, and they've given me a date that I need to do it. Now in the back end, they've actually gone and said this is specific to me, but they could actually go and say it's specific to a group, so finance or HR or a team, or indeed the whole company. And this means that when I come on here, the system will actually look at the site and say, James Butler needs to read this. Can't find any record that he has. So I can't go and confirm this because it's grayed out. But if I go and actually then click on the document, it'll go and upload the document and open the document, either download it or open it in Office Online. And then the button becomes active to be able to confirm it. Now this is an slightly older demo site. On the new version, we've got the option to confirm or decline, and it records both. So if I go and actually confirm this, you can see that actually highlights the whole of the red box, so you're not taking away any real estate that's useful for other elements. And behind the scenes, it's actually recorded in Power BI, which is again part of Office 365, and I'll show you that in the middle with in a minute with some other bits and pieces on there. Some of the other functional areas we've got on an intranet is a meeting workspace. So again, this is mobile responsive as well because it's useful for sort of being able to carry out actions on meetings. And the way the meeting workspace works is it's got some SharePoint lists and document libraries behind the scenes. This started out life as a board meeting solution, so I can go in and create a meeting, and here's some I've created earlier. And if I go into one of the meetings, you can see I've got the details of the meeting here, and I've got an agenda. I've got details of who's attending or the presenters here, and I've added some meeting minutes. I've also decided that there's some documents that are relevant to that meeting, so I've gone and added some documents into the document pack, and that's again all linked, all held separately in SharePoint, but all presented in this one nice view. Now during the meeting, you can actually go in and record actions or minutes, and again we can change this title. So actions and minutes are recorded during the meeting. So here's some list of actions. So I've added some decisions that we're discussing during the meeting. And then part of those decisions that we're discussing, you need to assign a set of actions to individual people. So I can actually go in and add an action. Here's an action I've added earlier, and the actions appear on this area over here. So I can see that this is filtered to all the actions for everybody as part of this meeting, or I can just go in and see what actions that I'm using. Now the nice thing about this is it's actually being recorded in SharePoint tasks, and those can be synchronized with your Outlook. So you can actually, if there's a regular meeting you're attending all the time, you can actually go and synchronize your Outlook tasks and notify that you've completed that meeting. So the idea is that you have your nice history of your meetings. So when I'm in my next month's meeting, I can jump quickly into last month's meeting. I can have a look and say, okay, we've got one that's not actually started, we've got one in progress, we've got 2 completed and 2 overdue. And so you can actually go and have a look, and you can nail into those areas and decide whether people need to be chased up. And it's just a nice little tool that we add into typically board meetings and then department meetings as well. Another area that we have a lot of information on the intranet is the employee services or HR portal. Now, some clients want all of the HR functionality, but we understand that a lot of companies have some HR process in place already, so often it's a case of pick and choosing what individuals want. So here's my employee services area. I've got some very quick tiles, so we use a nice promoted tile links for quick links into particular areas of the site. So I can actually go in and request holiday, I can go and check sickness, I can request a new desk and HR functionality and facilities management and that side of things. It's got an introduction to your employee services. And it's pulling in some details of which staff members are actually part of the HR team, which is really, really useful. And we have that approach to all the landing pages for the departments. So each department landing page is a public site that everybody can have a look at, but it's really a way of introducing the team of staff that are into that department. And you can obviously jump off, click on an individual user and jump off straight into their area. So one of the main areas I'll show you right from the starting process, but we have a new starter process. So if I go in and select a new starter process, and typically this will be done by somebody in HR, there's a nice tabbed form where an individual can go and fill in all the details about the new starter that's starting. And we have a whole load of fields and lists, fields and different job types and things in the system. But then again, we can add in, and if a client doesn't want, if you only have one location, then we don't display that location field, but it's stored in the default setting that we have on the system. So the HR person can actually click on personnel, they can actually fill that information in, and if they're equipped or they know what facilities they actually need, they can actually then go through the individual tabs and they can say what facilities and functionality that individual person needs. So they can say there's a desk required, put any notes about it, they can say what sort of phone that they're having and fill in those details. Now, what happens when the HR person kicks off this process is several workflows which really streamline the process of onboarding a new staff member. So it goes in and creates a record in the employee records, and that stores some information about the employee, contact details, details of the line manager, and it sets up a workflow permission, so it controls who can actually have a look at that information. Typically the HR department, but then the individual in some cases might have access to that. It also creates a separate details in a list, which is for details like their emergency contact details, their financial details, and this could be extended to 360 views, peer reviews, personal one-to-one plans and that sort of thing. It also goes and creates a document set which is specific to that individual person. So you can see here we've got document library document sets named by the individual person. You can see a date that it's actually created, and in this case we've got some template documents behind the scenes, so it's automatically gone in to an individual who's created it based on that workflow, and it's uploaded, created 4 documents using some templates for contract, driving license, passport and personal development. It's named them all nicely and correctly, and then you can start uploading information into that document library, and of course you can add more information in there, but everything that gets uploaded inherits that user's details. The nice thing on that is that you can actually then have filtered views of those employee details. So if I want a view of all the contracts, and I've got lots of staff here, I've got the 5 demo staff in here, so it's basically showing me all the contracts. And that can put in a field for the reviews. So if they have annual reviews, it can show me my next review date, and that can be based on the start date. So instantly somebody can actually go and see the contract, the time that people are actually using. Another part of that HR process that we've got is holidays and sickness recording. They work the same way effectively. So if I go in and actually go to look at booking a holiday, It defaults to myself, but I can overtype this if there's a PA that wants to book holiday on behalf of their director. You can choose a holiday type. You can actually have a start and end date. So in this case, I've got it set up that people can take full days or half days. So in this case, I'm going to go and have a date from the 9th today to 5 o'clock tomorrow. It's detected that I'm going to ask for 1.5 days. I can put in some comments and I can go and save that. And that'll go off and work within a workflow, and it'll send an alert to my, it'll put in a leave request and it'll send an alert off to my line manager. And the line manager just has a very simple step of being able to click and approve that holiday. Then if I want to go and check my overall balance of all my holidays, I can actually go into my holiday view. So here you can see I've got 18 holiday days remaining, that's nice, and 2 days off in lieu. I can then go in and see how that's actually calculated. So I've got 24 days entitlement, I've got 18 remaining, and I've booked 1.5 from last year that I've carried over. And these are standard SharePoint information, so I can see here's the leave that I'm waiting approval, I've got my approved leave, and so forth. So I've got a full list of all that information. The same process works with sick leave as well, and that gets pushed up into a company absence calendar. We've also got a simple who's in, who's out type calendar, so I can actually just go and notify staff that I'm actually generally doing. So I'm away on business in another location, I'm with a client, and that again filters into the company absence calendar. So we've got a SharePoint calendar behind the scenes in here, but we're displaying it in a nice view. So if you look in my company absence calendar, we're looking at this period of time, and we're splitting it into half days. So you can see I'm out of office today, and you can see a list of all the staff. And this can be filtered by department if you've got a larger number of staff. If you haven't got that many staff, you may just want one nice long list that you can graphically see who's in today, who's out today. Another thing we've got as part of that process is to book visitors. So I can actually go in and book a visitor, fill in my visitor booking details that I know at the time, and that'll send an email into reception to notify them that there's a visitor due on what particular day that visitor's due. Then if I go into my visitors, I can actually see that I've got one visitor scheduled in today. I can then go in, or reception can go into that visitor details, and they see some extra fields, so they can actually put in my car registration, they can actually put in the time that I was in and out, and if you issue badges and things, you can say that there's a badge issued. And that means that you're keeping a nice list of details of all of your visitors, so if you ever needed to go and actually see what visitor came and what details for any sort of compliance reasons, you've got a nice history of that visitor information. So in here, reception or the admin would actually see a whole list of all the different visitors, and the visitors are actually nested and grouped by the individual person that asked that visitor to attend. Some of the other things we've got on the intranet is very important, really, that we focus a lot on templates. So we basically, part of the process, we work with you to create a department, typically a department template, there may be a project template, and there may be a location template. So if I go and have a look at my location template for Portsmouth, and this is where companies have got different locations, we'll actually work with you to create the template for your location, so that you can actually then make use of that for other locations. So in this case, we've got our office, we've got some textual information about our office, we've got a nice calendar, a web part for our location. I think it's sunny out the window. No, it's not. It's cloudy. That's correct. And we've got a map, but then you can add in some tiles and bits and pieces in there for things like location, how to get there, instructions on parking permits and that sort of thing. And then a bit like that as well, we go in and have a look at our department templates. So a department template will have typically, again, have more of a team approach. So you're looking at meeting the team. You can then surface the news that's relevant to that department, which is nice because it means that you can actually have one central area for going and creating news and then categorizing it. And then you can surface that news in one or more places. So you can surface it to the home page, but you can surface it to department pages as well. And then we use the same sort of information for tiles, so that we have tiles to launch off into different particular areas. So if I click on my feeds tile, I'm in marketing now. And this is another link to some of the feeds. So we, in our intranet solution, we've got feeds from Yammer, we've got feeds from Twitter, but we've also got Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn will be coming soon because Microsoft are adding some APIs in for that. Another thing as part of Office 365 is video, and video is really strong for company messages, but it's really, really useful for training. So Office 365, which I'm on at the moment, has a video portal, which will be either stream or video. And that's a place where, so if you think YouTube for internal networks, you've got a nice video portal, you can create channels, but then it's really nice to be able to go and surface that information directly within the intranet. So we have a video page directly embedded into the intranet, and this is actually pulling out all the videos from the stream or video service that you can see. So it's putting through my channels. So here's my popular videos channels, and it's giving me some nice information. So it's showing me that 14 people have viewed it, what the title was, and you can actually go and directly watch the video from here. And as you can see here, we do a lot of video training, so little minute, half-minute videos, how to upload a file, how to do this, how to do that. And that's really, really useful to be able to keep everybody on this intranet side of things. If I then, some of the other areas we've got into, so in terms of the intranet, it's very important to have a public facing area for a department and a private facing area. And so in this example here, we've basically got our IT department. So here's again, it's our IT team department, but then we've also got our individual IT area, our IT team's workspace area that is totally locked down to just the IT team. And that's much more of a place for the IT team to go and do their work. So again, we look at templates that are involved in that particular area that you may want to do. So again, you're pulling in your IT team details, but this is only what the IT team can see. And you can give them a bit more functionality and flexibility in what the IT team can get out of that. Now, if I finally go into Power BI, which is part of Office 365, there's a couple of Power BI reports that we create as part of the intranet. First is analytics. So SharePoint does have some analytics built into it, but it does tend to be a case of being able to generate an Excel file that then you can download and have a look at. So in the analytics that we actually produce, we have a lot more sort of user-friendly analytics dashboards. So you can see here we've got a list of staff who haven't visited in a particular period. So if I scroll on, I've got a bit of a small screen here, but I can see this last month, this month. So this is a list of all the staff that haven't been on to the actual site, not that have. So that can be useful in terms of surveying, canvassing staff as to why they don't go on the intranet as much as possible. Now, as per normal Power BI, it's very interactive and everything's all linked in together. So you can see I've got my staff list here of who's been on for that particular period. I've got myself, and I've got a list of most top 10 visited pages up here. But if I go in and click on one of my colleagues, Tom, here, you can see that these were the pages that Tom accessed. So it's really, really quick to be able to go and dynamically jump between different areas. Another area on Power BI that we have got as well, which I referred to earlier, is our mandatory read analytics. So this is the analytics data that's being captured as a result of that mandatory read module on the home page. So we're showing you statistics per document, and we're showing you statistics per user. So if I want to, I can go in and select myself, and that'll filter showing you this is the list of documents that I've been asked to approve, and these are the ones that I've read. There's none that I've read, but there's one that's overdue. Again, I can take it the other process, so I can go and have a look at the health and safety policy, or one that's got a few more people in it. Yeah, some of them I've added more people in there, but that will basically show you a list for that one document of all the staff. And the final Power BI report we actually create is for holiday and sickness reporting. So in the sickness reporting here, we're basically putting in the details of in this case, all the sickness that people are filling in. And for HR purposes, it also pulls in the Bradford factor. So I can actually see which staff may be abusing the system. So in this case, you've got Carol, who's had 10 sickness days on 2 occasions, but then we've also got somebody over here, Luca, who's actually had 6.5 sickness days on 6 different occasions. He's probably had lots of individual days off. The one thing I'll switch back to a final sort of PowerPoint view on the PowerPoint slide. Oops. One thing we do as part of the system is configure the search part of SharePoint. I didn't show that on the demo screen because we haven't got enough content in the demo site really, so it's hard to show you the search area. But this is just a screenshot of a properly configured search center. So here we've got our nice search results. And we can highlight the different areas that you want to search in. So you've got things like everything, locations, but then you can search nested by projects clustered across the top here. And then we've got search categories. So this is where you can tag your documents, and then that pulls in a nice search category. So down the right here, left here, we've got things like types of documents, locations, classifications, functions. So this is an example of quite a lot of use of metadata, but we do deliver a configured search center as part of the project. We have an active roadmap, as I mentioned. So some of the areas that we're working on at the moment that are on the demo is we've created a standard chatbot. So that is basically where we've pulled in some typical user training information on the intranet. Now you can override that with your own chatbot that you can then you have a list of all our chatbot questions and answers, but you can fill in details. So how do I book a holiday, and it'll give you directions and details on how to do that. So it's a much more of a self-service, but it is powered by the Microsoft information that you can add to over time, but it does. You can have in the word holiday and leave as the same word. So whether somebody puts in holiday or leave, it comes up with the same answer. And the other thing that's part of Office 365 is something that's called Power Apps, which is becoming even more relevant on Office 365 because Power Apps will be embedded into SharePoint pages in the next couple of months. But we introduced some Power Apps. So if you look at the Power App here, I've got my Hub Alerts, the red one here. So if I open my Power App Hub Alert, I would actually go and see the SharePoint list from a mobile device. So there's Windows, iOS, and Android. And that will give me an individual out on the road the ability to go in and fill in an alert, and that includes the red alert. So often, a red alert that could be a fire or terrorist threat or something. Somebody can actually use their mobile device, fill in that from their mobile, and it'll send out a message to everybody without even having to go into the office.
Okay, thank you very much, James, for taking us through the AMT Hub. If you'd like to find out more information on the Hub or on how it can integrate with the other features of Office 365, or even just if you're interested to see how Office 365 can be better used in your business, please do give us a call. We're quite happy to come out and chat to you or give you some more online demonstrations. All of these webinars are recorded, so if you visit our website, amtevolve.com, you'll find the series of webinars and lots of other useful information there also. We're also very interested here on feedback on the webinars and any other topics that you might want to hear. So again, please get in touch via the website and just give us any other ideas of topics that you might be interested in us covering in these. I think we're now done. Have a great afternoon.